Okay. Give me 1 second here, and I'm going to start this beautiful thing from the beginning. So again, I want to say welcome to all of you who are here this evening, and thank you for joining us on this Tuesday Best Start Regional meeting. Please sign in. If you're able, we need to capture your attendance. Please sign in to record that. Choose your language if you need to, and that would be in our globe. So our interpreters are available for Spanish interpretation. You can choose that globe if you need to. And I will have Carmen just come off mute for a second and relay that same information for me, Carla. I don't know if, or someone else can do it. I don't know if she's able to.
I can do it. Si necesita interpretación en español, asegure seleccionar el globo en la parte de abajo de su pantalla. Si está conectado por teléfono, haga clic en los tres puntos colocados en la parte de abajo de la pantalla y escoja el globo que dice interpretación y seleccione español, ya que solo transmitimos interpretación en español. Si necesita más ayuda, por favor déjenos saber a través del chat.
Thank you, Carla. So we are recording our meeting tonight. It is in process. We will be recording it for your future reference. This is our agenda for the evening. We'll go through our children, all for kids, we've known that, and our desired meeting results, as well as a review of our September meeting. We do have a special presentation by Adam Seiden, who is our guest tonight from All for Kids. Then we're going to go through some summary of our strategy findings and have a discussion, a table talk, and some community updates, as well as some learning opportunities and announcements from our community. So tonight, our desired results are we want to continue building our community and gather clear understanding of our Best Start initiative with clear understanding of the partnership, objectives, and goals in relation to our CCA, as well as gain clarity in action plan. Yay. So I'm going to ask for a volunteer to come off mute and read our meeting agreements for me. I would love it if one of our attendees would do that.
I can do it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Be punctual. Stay present and engaged. Put the focus on the future. Be authentic yourself. One person speaks at a time. Agree to disagree respectfully. Finish your sentence, not your paragraph. I'm sorry.
That was for me. They put that in for me.
Step up, step back. Exercise confidentiality when necessary. Be patient and open to the technology. Keep your video on if possible. Assume positive intentions. A rainy day will make flowers. Separate person from the role. Be creative and have fun.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ms. Day. I appreciate that. Okay, I'm going to turn this over to my colleague, David Dela Cruz, who's going to give a brief recap of our September meeting. David?
Right. So our September meeting, we were able to come back and discuss
I'm
the
sorry.
action plan. Oh, I'm sorry, Andrea.
No, I'm sorry. I
Okay.
went ahead. Go ahead.
Right. So, just as a quick recap, we were able to move into our community change agenda and look at our goal one and decide an action plan. So over our uh, parent groups, our last two regional meetings, we were able to discuss an action plan from a lot of different Best Start members in regards to what tactics we want to engage in meeting our community change agenda goals. Yeah, and so that's our quick recap. And then later on today, we're going to be looking at a little bit more in detail what was captured, what was compiled in our notes, and then we're going to disseminate that with a little bit more discussion later today.
Awesome sauce. Thank you, David. So now, go right here for a moment. I want to bring in our guest presenter tonight, Adam Seiden, who is the Director of Policy and Advocacy and External Engagement for All for Kids. He has something special to share with all of us this evening regarding voting. So give me 1 second, Adam, and I'm going to have you come on up and share.
Yep, sounds good. Well, thank you for having me here. I appreciate it. Yeah, I wanted to just talk some about voting, the importance of voting. All for Kids is definitely doing a push around that. I'm gonna share actually a couple pages we're doing. It kind of starts with we have a advocacy page, allforkids.org/advocacy, and let me start with sharing that. So it's allforkids.org/advocacy. And that's where you can find a lot of different information about it. We have like our advocacy corner. I think I came to you in the past and talked about like our we had a policy agenda. We had different things we were pushing for. So like that was the April advocacy corner. This advocacy corner talks some about like some results from the budget, but also really about the voting on this page. So let me show you this is the advocacy corner. Kind of puts all the stuff together into one document where it's one thing for me to kind of come and give updates and tell you stuff, but it you can only remember so much of it. And if you're trying to explain it to the next person, it's like, well, this is now a document where you have it, you can reference back to it and also get more information at it. There's always like all these links on it. So if you want kind of more information than what's here, there's links there. And you'll see kind of a whole big piece of that is the making a plan to vote. We also have our California Voter Resource Center, which you find on the advocacy page. And it has your information about voter registration, about the general information, polling place, kind of get all kinds of different pieces of information you can find here. We also are doing weekly videos, and they're kind of reminder videos featuring our chief program officer, Karina Costco. And just we're kind of really doing a big push because we just really think it's important to do.
Awesome. All right.
And so you may wonder, that kind of sounds like a lot for a nonprofit to do. Are they usually that aggressive? Want to be clear that it is All for Kids has no position on what candidates people vote for. We have no position on what decisions people make on the ballot measures, but we do as an agency believe it's important for people to get out and vote. Because if people who care about children and who like Best Start and All for Kids care about the creating a world where every child is safe to grow, if we take those values with us to the polls, then that can really make a change, and that's how we can kind of see some results happen.
So, Adam, let me ask you, so it's a little more aggressive of a role than some nonprofits usually take. Are you taking a stand on any issues or alignment with the party nominee or something like that?
So definitely not doing that. Again, we have no position on what candidates, no position on ballot measures. Just please go out, and vote. Like that.
Okay. So what does that mean? Just reminding people to register to vote? Is that what you're doing? Or and the election day is November 5th. I think most people know that, but what's the candor? What are we doing?
So it starts with those. I mean, those are the kind of two most important things. And so what also though, if you're talking about registering to vote, what happens if you sorry, first of all, if you're talking about registering to vote, well, here's a link to make sure that you can find out whether or not you're registered. And if you're not, here's a different link to get yourself registered. And if you're talking about, when it comes time for election day, what it's one thing to remember to vote. It's another thing to be able to find a link to find all your polling places. I'm seeing in the chat that people were not able to see my slides. Let me do this. Let me take a second. I'm going to drop some links into the chat just so you can kind of all see what I'm talking about there. Because I thought that I thought that my screen was sharing to everybody, but I think it was only maybe sharing to like the hosts. But is everybody seeing all those links I just dropped in the chat? Does that work for you? And so what I was saying
good.
First thing I was showing was the advocacy page that has kind of if you go to the advocacy page, you can find all links to all these other things. But in the corner newsletter, that's where, and also in the voter resource page, that's where you have like those things I just mentioned, like, okay, it's one thing to remember you're supposed to register, but here's the link to go do it. Here's the link to find your polling place. Here's that kind of link. But also, when we talk about voting, if you're talking about election day, remember that's the last day to vote, right? That's not the election. That's just the last day. That's like when election ends. But do people know like when voting starts? What if you get to election day and you forgot to register to vote? You kind of just didn't really realize it. You were thinking about it. Now you find it, said, you know what? I'm now convinced, but I didn't register. Now what? Are you out of luck? Do you know what happens in those cases?
Okay. What happens? Well, I actually, for one, have read the newsletter. I know your newsletter, so I know the answer, but I want to see if anyone else in the room can tell us what happens. Does anyone else know what happens?
Start with the voter registration question, right?
Yeah, let's start with the voting.
You're finally getting to the point where you convince somebody to vote and they're like, oh yeah, I saw that ad. Now I'm going to do it because I finally paid attention, but I didn't register. I'm eligible, right? I read all the criteria, but I forgot to register. Anybody can come off mute or put in the chat. Are you just out of luck or is there something different? Anybody know?
So I know you're not out of luck, but I don't know what you're supposed to do.
All right. Hey, you got it right. You're not out of luck. So in California, we have what's called same-day voter registration. So if you go and vote in person, you're always able to register to vote whenever you go and vote. And so whether that's on election day or they have a few days, earlier than that, early in-person voting starts October 26th. So you can go, if you're going to go vote in person, you can register to vote that same time you go. It's specifically called a provisional ballot, but that doesn't matter. All you know is you show up, you say, look, I want to register. They'll register you. You'll be able to vote, and you do it right then. So, yep, you got it right. You're not out of luck. And by the way, let's be clear. This is a California rule, so don't be going and telling family who live in other states that they all have different rules. Some of them allow it, some, but this is in California, same day voter registration. What about when does voting start in California? Not when it ends on election day, but when does it start in California?
Come off mute, Day. I saw your mouth moving, but what was it? Were you telling us? No? Oh.
And anybody with Best Start, by the way, if you're a staff member and you didn't attend one of my trainings already, Sylvia, I don't know if you count. You were at one of my meetings.
I was at vote as early as you get information in the mail, your packets and your informational guides. That's as early as you can vote, which I already voted.
Me too. I voted already.
Get your VBN ballot in the mail, mail it right back in. Also on October 8th, I kind of consider October 8th is the day that those vote by mail, the official ballot drop boxes you see around town, October 8th is when they can start returning them. So you can send a bag by mail, then you have to make sure it gets there in time and all that. I prefer kind of the drop off box. You can start dropping them off as soon as October 8th. So voting is starting right now. So those are the types of things that we're talking about. And it's just trying to make sure people know that. And by the way, these resources I'm giving to you, they're definitely for everybody to share. So share them with your friends, your family. You have other organizations that you're part of. Like it's meant to be able to be shared. Again, it doesn't say, it's not going to say who to vote for or whatever. It's just kind of the information. It's just the details. It's the resources.
Awesome. Awesome sauce. Thank you. Thank you. That's great information to know because a lot of people did not actually attended one of your thing. So I got the inside scoop, but it's interesting to know because a lot of people don't know when I can start voting, even understanding here in the Antelope Valley where the drop boxes are, where can I put my ballot and is it too late? Is it too early?
Yeah.
So
One
thank
thing I'll
you.
say, we actually kind of made it a little bit fun as well. I forgot to mention, we're doing a plan to vote trivia challenge. So I don't know if you know we all use Kahoots nowadays. We have a little Kahoots trivia challenge where you can go and see. It's short. It's only 5 questions. But it's you test your score, see how well you do. Anybody who attended one of my presentations and listened and actually is paying attention is here. You get a leg up because 2 of the 5 answers because you just went through it right here. So you got 2 of 5 of them right now. Go see whether or not you can get a high score and if you know the other 3.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. All right. And I did have something on here, Carla. I saw it was dropped in our share, and I can share it out just briefly so those who are in attendance could see what's on the ballot and how it pertains to families and children. So I'm going to share this. Hold on just 1 second.
Thank you, Darrell. She's going to pull up our presentation right now, and I've just included a list. Those of you who attended the stakeholder convening are probably already familiar with this, and you already saw it. We won't necessarily go through every single thing that is on the ballot, but I did include this time around a little bit of what's on our local city ballots that we didn't see during the stakeholder convening. I'll give Darrell a minute to hit that.
Give me a button. There it is.
And so just a reminder, what's on the ballot this election year. We are voting for a U.S. president. We are voting for a U.S. Senate seat. In addition to a special election for that U.S. Senate seat, after the passing of our late Senator Dianne Feinstein, there was an appointed senator to that seat. Oh man, her name just skipped my...
Yeah, I just saw her on television too.
And you know why? Because of Austin, that other actor that plays, anyways, Adam, what's her name?
LaFonza Butler.
LaFonza Butler, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, so she was appointed by the governor after the passing of Senator Feinstein. And so between the election and before the official date that the new senator takes on this seat, that special election will dictate who will take that seat for that time being. She has written a letter already of how she's ready to take on that next career step. So all luck to her in her next endeavors. We are also here in the Antelope Valley region. We are represented a certain portion of the Antelope Valley is represented by U.S. House Representative District 27. So that one is up for election. And then 3 of our state assembly seats for District 23, 39, and 34. Just kidding. 1 Senate, 2 assembly seats. All right.
Okay.
On the ballot, there are 10 propositions, emphasis on 10. In case you want to go to that Kahoot, make sure you keep that. Again, we went over these the day of the stakeholder convening. Considering that the ballots have been mailed out, in addition to like the sample ballots, you should have a lot of this information at home already. If you don't, you want to do your research, right? If you're still wondering, should I vote for, should I vote against? These are just like the things that we can expect to see on our ballot. As Adam shared earlier, we don't tell you how to vote, but we strongly encourage you to do your research. Check to see how you feel about a certain proposition, if you'd like to vote for or against. And then this next slide, we didn't see the last time, or at least the bottom portion of it, we didn't. Jarrell, if you could,
yes.
you could,
I got you.
So here in the city of Palmdale, we do have 2 city council seats that are up for re-election in District 1 and District 2. We know that in the city of Lancaster, they had their elections earlier in the year. So as of right now, only city of Palmdale is will be having those elections. But there are some measures that you, depending, again, if you live in the city of Palmdale, if you live in the city of Lancaster, you may or may not see some of these. So I again included just a list, but you want to go through your ballot and see which ones show up on yours. Measure PD is for the city of Palmdale. It is Palmdale Essential Services Protection Measure proposed by the city council. Measure YM is a Lancaster Essential Services Protection Measure, also proposed by the city of, or sorry, this one was proposed by the city of Lancaster. So if you live in the city of Palmdale, you will not see Measure YM. If you live in the, if you live in the city of Palmdale, you will not see the YM. If you live in the city of Lancaster, you will not see the PD, because we only vote for what is within our respective districts or cities. Measure AVH is an Antelope Valley High School's job skills improvement measure. So we know that Antelope Valley High School Union District is throughout the entire AV. So whether you're living in Palmdale or Lancaster, you will see this one on your ballot. And then the bottom 3 are measures at the county level, measure E, G, and A. You want to take a look at those as a reminder. The Antelope Valley is a part of the LA County, Los Angeles County, so we do get a say in those measures. So again, make sure you look at your ballot. You should have received your sample ballot information booklet so that you can read the the fors and against, kind of do that research and make that informed decision when you go to the polls. With that in mind, I want to open it up to any Q's and A's, any questions that you might have, especially right now that we have Adam here. If anyone has a particular question that we might be able to answer, now might be a good time.
Hi guys, good evening. This is Gloria. I had a quick question. I've been hearing a lot of different outputs on this. If you choose not to vote for a president, does your vote count as incomplete? Or because I've heard that they don't even take it in consideration. They'll take it in, but they won't take it in consideration. Is that true?
No, I mean no, that is not true. I've never, definitely not true. You can vote for anything you want to vote for. Some people go in and only vote for president, or only vote for, some people go and just vote for assembly because that's what they really care about. Some don't like any of the candidates, but they really care about a ballot measure. I mean, you can vote however you want. It's going to count however it's voted. Whether or not it'll count against, like, if it won't count in that race, obviously, right? So if you don't like somebody, but you really don't particularly like the one who is the other choice, and so you don't vote for anybody, okay, well, now you're not really, you're not equaling anything out, right? So in that race, instead of kind of equaling something out, you don't have a choice, but certainly you do not have to vote for anything you don't want, and your vote always will count for whatever it is you do choose to vote for.
Oh, thank you so much. Because I was very confused on that. I wasn't fully aware, but I was hearing a lot of different opinions and I didn't understand it. Thank you, Adam. I appreciate for having that clarification.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And great question, Gloria. We want to make sure that everyone is informed and understand that their vote matters. We want everyone to get out to vote.
Yeah. Yeah. It's important. This is great. Any other questions for our team here concerning voting? All right. So we're all set. Everybody registered. Everybody's ready to vote. Yeah.
All right.
Give me two thumbs up. Yay, yay, yay. Awesome. 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 Well, Adam, thank you so much for just taking time out tonight to come and share that information with us. We will make sure we pass that on and make sure we get that information out to our community.
Sounds good.
And for those of you who are attending here all night, if you come to our in-person meeting on Thursdays, Adam will be here in person, sharing some great information along that same line. So thank you again, Adam. Greatly appreciate you.
Thanks for having me. Talk to you
All
later.
right. All right. So we're going to continue on. Give me 1 second. Okay. All right. So we want to keep going here. All right, here we go. The last time we met in September, that went by so fast, it's hard to even say September came and went. But the strategy exercise and the table talks that we had, the ones that the partnership chose, those strategies are in. So we're going to talk about them tonight. In fact, I'm going to invite my cohort, David Dela Cruz, to come on, and he's going to kind of revamp. Carla, are you going to do this portion, just reading our goals, objectives, and strategies, and then David come in and talk about what we came up with?
Sure. The first goal, the goal that we said was going to be the priority that we're going to focus on and tackle first through these meetings was the first one. Children have access to quality childcare and early education that meet the unique needs of the child and family. We said that in order to achieve this goal, we'd have to see some things happen, including increasing childcare program availability and enrollment, increasing continued operation of childcare programs, and increasing the use of specialized teaching curriculum. However, in order to achieve those objectives, we had to come up with strategies. How are we going to achieve those objectives? And so that is where the conversation has been for the last month. And we talked about stakeholder engagement and collaboration and how this supports reaching those objectives, policy advocacy and reform, data-driven analysis, pilot programs and capacity building, and community engagement and education. And it was a very fruitful conversation in all three meeting spaces. We received a lot of input from parents, providers, stakeholders, residents, community leaders. So let's see what David is going to share with us next, how he has summarized all that information.
All right, thank you, Carla. And yes, just a reminder as well, this is something that I'm presenting, but this is presenting right back to you, our partnership. Everything from our community change agenda to its prioritizations, to its objectives, to its strategies and tactics have all been based on your feedback, on your voting, on your testimonies, on your passions, your priorities. It has all been coming from you. So in this overview, we're going to be going over the latest piece, which was the tactics. As Carla mentioned, we had various touch points in getting your feedback on what tactics we want to get going so that we actually have an action plan to get boots on the ground. I know that a lot of our Best Start members have said that they don't want to be presented to anymore. They don't want to feel like they want to be lectured or anything. They don't need to learn anything more. They want to be active. So this is the part in which we actually lay out the plan on what it is, what it means to actually be active in specific strategies to our community change agenda goal, which, of course, goal one being expansion in childcare, that children have access to quality childcare and early education. So with that said, the first strategy that we were able to compile and look at our notes and see what our members gave feedback on was in stakeholders engagement and collaboration. And that would be in the first tactic that was identified as stakeholder meetings turning into meet and greets, utilizing a community cafe model and providing informative 20-minute presentations and having a discussion afterwards. So basically, we want to utilize this tactic to actually start connecting our community residents and parents, any relevant stakeholders, to our elected officials, to our government representatives. It's something that is able to get our stakeholders in a coalition. It gets everybody on the same page, in which we're actually able to connect, any sort of service providers to service recipients, any sort of parents to childcare providers, and open up those dialogues to really build community. We also were able to talk about how our stakeholders are focusing on 0 to 5. So basically, in Best Start, what we're focusing on is that 0 to 5 age range. And with that, we want to engage more stakeholders who are active in that area, that are actively serving that demographic or working with that demographic, or even representative of that demographic with targeting parents who are parents of 0 to 5. Of course, because those are the most vested interest individuals, right? There is no one more interested in this mission, in our initiative, than those parents and those stakeholders. And then on top of that, we also it's also just connecting those families and those stakeholders to organizations. This one's kind of a slight repeat, but it's the same gist of it. Basically, we just want to open up those connections from stakeholders to residents. So, moving on to the next one. We have key resources and stakeholders that we identified within stakeholder engagement. The key stakeholders that we identified here, and a lot of these you're going to see repeated over the various strategies, is daycare providers, local school districts, TK workers, local libraries, DCFS 0 to 5 department, local CBOs whose focus is on families 0 to 5, who work with families 0 to 5, and CCRC. These are the identified specific stakeholders that were identified to be a part of this, and then the resources that our members identified were marketing materials, community incentives, and event spaces to be a part of that strategy.
Okay.
And then moving on to the next one. So that was stakeholder engagement. Now we're going to move on to our pilot programs and capacity building programs. So what we're doing here at Best Start is continuously looking at ways to build capacity, to build parent leaders, to build advocates, to allow our childcare providers to feel more qualified, to have access to those qualifying trainings. We want a AV that's just better equipped, right? And so that's part of what we've been doing. So what our members have identified as part of our pilot programs and capacity building is really a lot of it to just keep the momentum going on that. So the first tactic that was identified was to continuing our trainings or professional development opportunities for childcare providers. Examples that were involved were trauma-informed, baby signs, growing brain. Those are all workshops that we provide in which we improve the capacity of parents or the providers. And so that allows parents to get involved, that allows them to even have like money making opportunities. Say they want to become a baby science instructor, facilitator. There is an ability to go further with that than just to have it on hand, right? And then on top of that is allowing our childcare providers to be more equipped, more qualified to improve the quality of childcare in the AV. And that's something that we continue to strive for. And on top of that is to offer more trainings that help with parents identify quality care. That's a really important one there, is that we really allow our parents to become leaders, not only within their community, but within their families. And part of that being is honing in on really being able to address what's best for their families, for their children. So our trainings that we're offering, our new slew of them, I suppose, can be in that specific capacity, helping our parents identify quality care. And so moving on to the next one right here, before we move on to our discussion piece, would be identifying the key resources and stakeholders that you or partnership identified. And these stakeholders are being the childcare providers, parents, and trainers, plus bilingual trainers, and the promoting partners as well. So as something that was, as a side note, that was identified within this was also making sure that our Spanish speakers were involved in this. Because a lot of our Spanish speakers, most of them, if not all, that are involved within Best Start are actually parents. So parents 0 to 5 or parents just in general, um, who have just we've elevated their voices to include that translation, interpretation wherever possible. And that it's going to include, of course, um, in our workshops. So this being the idea here is that we have workshops that are available not only just in English but also primarily in Spanish as well. Without English being the first language, it would be Spanish. So that is something that we have identified with our residents. And then the resources that you guys identified were marketing materials, spaces to meet, licensing bodies, translation services, and technical capacity to run these meetings. So yeah, so before I move on, is there any sort of questions? Um, of course, we're going to have a discussion right now within our group, but we have, if there's any sort of clarification that you guys might need before we get into discussion, I'm open to that as well. All right. We're forever holding our peace then. So yeah, all right. So moving on to our facilitators for the table talk, I'll move it to you guys.
Sorry about that, guys. So let's see, who do we have? We have at least 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So Stephanie is setting up our breakout
So
room.
David, can I get your feedback on whether we do want to do a breakout room? I see that we have 5 people connected. I want to make sure, are you guys able to participate in breakout rooms? Maybe not David's feedback. I
Yeah.
apologize, David. I'm gonna retract that offering to you and offer it to the residents, Day, Jessica, Bayena's Daycare, the Zoom user, and Gloria. Would you prefer to go into a breakout session or participate here as a whole meeting space? It's just 5 residents, so I want to make sure. Do we need to go into the breakout rooms, or is it okay
Or
to
can
just
we
have
just,
a conversation as a whole?
We can have a conversation as a whole if that's okay.
I'm okay with that as well. This is Day,
okay,
you said.
okay.
Me too, I'm fine with that. This is Gloria.
Hi, Maria. Okay. All right. Well, then what we're going to do then, so let me go to here's our question. So if you look in the chat, I just downloaded the questions that's going to promote and prompt our discussion. And we're leaving this up, and I'm going to ask Maylene to help us out as we take notes of what people are saying, because David presented some information on the stakeholders engagement as well as um, the pilot programs. So now we are at the place of what can we do? What can you do? This is the boots on the ground. So you can come off mute. If you're able to get engaged, write some things down on your own, but we need to hear your feedback because this is where we get start the work doing. So as David just presented, let's start with the stakeholders convening. And what were your thoughts? What can you do? Consider your strengths. I want everyone to consider their strengths and passions. What is it that you think you could do as far as the stakeholders convening? Because this discussion is, well, what if we had more meet and greets? What if we, in this engaging of stakeholders, who needs to be at the table? What can you do to make this particular strategy or initiative happen? And I would like to hear from all of us. But what do you consider your strengths, or how you can make that happen? How can you enhance this work?
So I have 2 cents. This is Dr. Day Youssef again.
Okay, hey Day.
So for me, I love the trainings that we have. I love the I'm actually part of the policy committee. We have some awesome discussions, but I think that's what lacks as a whole, the discussion. So we learn the stuff, right? And somewhere it gets stored. Some of us, find places to use it, but we're not having that continuous community or conversation. And it almost seems like some things nobody wants to have that hard conversation because of the fact that it's uncomfortable. It's those of us that are a little older, we was taught that you don't talk about politics, you don't talk about religion, you don't, there's certain things that we were taught not to speak on. And we very much so now need to speak on it, but nobody wants to take the gaping leap and sit down and have those kinds of conversations. So in my opinion, it is the lack of the conversation that is holding us back. I think that the information is there. I don't think that we're utilizing it enough, and we're not having the hard conversations. That's my 2 cents.
So you think in the stakeholders meetings, like we have the different stakeholder meetings every 3 months, and then we have our regional meeting monthly. You think we should have more conversation with the stakeholders, or are you saying more conversation with the
saying both. I'm saying both. So and please don't take this personally, Best Start.
No.
This meeting is your meetings are outstanding. But they're very directive. They're very what's the word I want to use? Organized, very on purpose, and that's awesome. But sometimes, and I'm not saying every meeting, but some meetings you need to allow it to take on its own force, because that force is the conversation that's not being had. So the information is coming in the room, but that's all that's happening, is the information is coming in the room, but nobody's talking about it. Nobody's dissecting it. Nobody's making it fit to how we can use it after we leave that room, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it does.
I like what you're sharing, Jay, and it makes me think a little bit. I think the people that come to my mind are yourself, Jessica, and Gloria, and how you have walked into the meeting spaces, taken that information, and you've turned it around to other parents, providers, residents in the community. What I'm wondering is, and now I'm just kind of prompting into another question, is what do you think, for those of you who maybe haven't had an opportunity or haven't really taken on that step of walking into the meeting space, taking the information and turning it back around into the community, like what's holding you back? And do you see yourself able to do this? Did you know that we want you to do this, that we want you to be the ones who are training, the ones that are presenting? I think in the last few meetings, a couple of residents have really taken that next step in saying, hey, can I facilitate? Can I present? And we've reached out to a couple here and there, especially through the committee. So I'm just wondering if anyone else has feedback. I know we have someone from Baiana's Daycare, Miss Jennifer, if you guys want to provide any additional feedback to that.
Carla, can I share?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes. So for myself, I know that I'm part of a network of childcare providers, and what I do is I share the information. So I try to advocate for so all the information that I do get, I do share with the providers. So for me, it's a lot of advocacy and encouragement for the providers. So it's not only gaining the information, but sharing it with them. And it's not that they don't want to join the meetings, but sometimes, they're not able to. For whatever reason, they're busy with the schedules. A lot of them, they work very long hours. But we do share information. So like you mentioned, a lot of the times is, getting that information and just providing those resources out to the community so that they're also involved. So I think a lot of it is just becoming an advocate, and just spreading the word out as to what's out there in the community, because that's how you become engaged. And a lot of the times they might not even know what's happening. So that's what pretty much what I do, and then they let the families know, and they become familiar as to what's happening, and they really enjoy it. So a lot of the times we're part of a group chat, a WhatsApp, and we're like sending, what's up? So there's like 70 of us in the WhatsApp, and then like there's a resource that's like, hey, this is happening. Oh, thank you for letting us know, and this is how we provide the information. But a lot of it is just sharing it, because it's always good to share the information. And a lot of the times it's not that you don't want to share it. It could be that maybe we do not know other people to share it with. But for myself, since I am part of a network with the other providers, thankfully, I do like to network, and that's how I met Carla through another somebody from CCRC that I really enjoy, Adriana. So networking that's how you get to know other people, and you get to know what's part of the community, and thankfully that's how I get to know what's happening, and I get them involved. But yeah, and that's how we become a community. We help each other out, and we let them know what's going on, and that's a part of getting to know what's going on. But yeah, definitely helping each other. That's what Best Start is about, right? They're zero to 5, and what I hear from providers is like they're very thankful, for all the resources that Best Start has offered, a lot of them, and also like all the trainings that they're offering, because a lot of us, we cannot afford to be paying for these trainings, that a lot of the times that they're so expensive that we cannot afford. We live paycheck to paycheck, so we can't really afford to spend a lot of money to train. Not that we don't want to, just that we can't afford it. But thank you so much, and I just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Jessica. That's good feedback, and that's what we need. I heard from Dave improvements. I heard from you also, Jessica, how to get using your strengths and your connections through WhatsApp and talking to other daycare providers. Sylvia, go ahead.
Yeah, I think everybody's making some phenomenal points.
Yeah.
I'd like to touch back a little bit on what Day stated in terms of our meetings. Day, I feel you 100%. I feel that, and we've had these conversations as a team too, is that sometimes we get bogged down with everything that needs to be included in a meeting, and maybe sometimes our agenda should be really just made a little smaller, in the sense of giving more time to the conversations, giving more time to the main topic. It makes it a little bit difficult because we do only have one meeting a month. But I think you're right. If we try to streamline our meetings a little bit more, it'll help. I think another challenge that we face is that there's times when we have people within the partnership who may not be getting the full grasp of what we're talking about, and all of a sudden the meeting takes on a whole different direction, and that could take another 5-10 minutes off of our meeting time. And I think what we need to do is we need to be able to say that everybody that's in the room, everybody that's participating, everybody that's on track, that we have the ability, or that we have that it's okay for us to be able to say, hey, I hear what you're saying, but let's bring it back to this, because right now we're focusing on this, because I think that'll also make a huge difference on the productivity of our meetings.
I would agree with you, Ms. Sylvia.
Say it again, Dave. We didn't quite hear you.
I said I would agree with you, Miss Sylvia. I think that would definitely do some productivity on our meetings. I think that we might start unearthing the dust and all of the other stuff that's under the rug. Got a lot of stuff up under the rug. We have minorities in the same room but don't embrace themselves. You don't want to get me on my soapbox. I'm just saying. Okay.
I did want to elevate a couple of things that Jessica said, because I think it answers those questions as well. That second question that we had for the table talk was, how can you enhance this work? And I think that she brought up something that was very important is having stakeholder advocates. And I kind of came up with that particular word, the stakeholder advocates, in the sense that, like Jessica mentioned, not all childcare providers can be there during that time, but if we can have one advocate who is going to be there to represent and be able to disseminate the information back, to take that information back, I think it's crucial that in the work that we do in terms of stakeholder and collaboration, in moving these stakeholder convenings into meet and greets, it is very important that we have an advocate representative for the child care provider community. So I do want to highlight that as one way that we can really enhance the work that gets done in this particular strategy. And how can we engage others? I know she mentioned sharing via WhatsApp. Can never say that right. WhatsApp. And other community groups. I know we had a little conversation about social media, and I'm like, to me, it's just Instagram. However, if we know that there are other platforms that have proven to be very successful in connecting our community here in the AV, we want to make sure we are tapping into those resources and supporting you. So in this case, Jessica, if you're saying, you know, you need information for like the WhatsApp, like, is what we are providing enough? Like, are you able to share that there? So just kind of wanted to highlight those two things.
Okay. So let me move on because we do have some other share outs. Let me go to the next one. Give me 1 second. So we can discuss these as well. What is going on with my screen? Hold on, guys. I'm having some technical difficulties. There we go. There it is.
All right. Technical delays.
Technical delays. I'm sorry about that. Go ahead,
It's okay.
David.
Don't worry, Darrell. So just to give myself a pause, I'm also writing all this down and also taking notes on everything that you guys are saying as well. So, because this is all very important, extremely important whenever you guys give us feedback like that. And I mean, before maybe I go on, it's like something that's really important to us that we allow your feedback like that, your discussions really guide the conversation and the direction of the partnership of the Best Start initiative here in the AV. And, you know, because these things are what give us cultural context. These things are what give us the ability to build community because it's necessary to understand the community that exists, that lives here. So, yeah, this is all very important. And just as a side note, also, is that, you know, as we continue to create our agendas and we continue to establish what it is that we talk about at a meeting, we're always, always, always looking to have time dedicated for discussion. Because that is, again, yeah, the piece that drives what we do here with our own version of empowerment and evaluation under empowerment and community-based participation too. But anyways, off of my own soapbox, I'll go into talking about policy advocacy and reform, what it is that our members talked about. And so the first point, the first tactic that they identified was coordinating existing coalitions to push an agenda for early childcare resources in the AV. And now this is important because it's something that is like part of bridging that gap between us and others in the Antelope Valley who are operating under the same goals. So it's really important for us to stay cohesive. It's really important for us all to stay, you know, focused on that particular goal of childcare expansion, of working to develop 0 to 5 child development. So the thing here is that in order for us to get going on getting traction, on talking to local officials, on talking to state officials, and even going further beyond from that, it's really, really important to get people power. Because if it's just 1 or 2 people from 1 or 2 groups, it really doesn't get all that much traction now, does it? It doesn't really get much buy-in from somebody who is working on a policy standpoint. So this is really important in which we look at existing networks that we can tap into and we can really build on. The next tactic, I believe, is engaging in local advocacy efforts to inform local officials regarding the state of childcare in the AV. And this is a piece that actually also goes into looking at what we already have. We already have a lot of childcare data. We have a lot of stuff, like, for example, with our State of the Child report, on using that information, using that data, and bringing it to our officials right now as we continue to gather more insights, more recent data, more recent statistics. We still already have that kind of thing on hand. We have plenty of testimony. We have plenty of individuals who can talk, about their experiences in this right now. So engaging in local advocacy efforts just looks at gathering our thoughts, gathering our experiences, our data, our statistics even, and presenting that when we talk to our local officials on bringing about real policy change. And then the next one would be empowering our parents to communicate their needs to elected officials as well. So this is something that we have already established a prototype in which we're bringing individuals from the Best Start membership, our residents, our partners, parents, to, state conferences or early childcare voices, meetings or the spaces in which the AV is able to expand and look towards those state officials, or looking towards other individuals or other places that might be going through the same thing. So that's a part of what it is that goes into that capacity to work in policy advocacy with our parents, and really allowing us to kind of host that too. And Carla, I don't know if you wanted to add anything onto that, or maybe tack anything into it. I know that this is something that's in your realm.
No, I guess just add that a lot of I'm already seeing a lot of the work that we're doing in the policy committee is aligning to this. So it's just good to see that a lot of what we're doing, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We just have to really propel it to the next step.
Right. Yeah. And that way we simplify things too. So not so much going about in circles and feeling like we're talking about the same things. It's like we've doing it, we've done it, we're doing it, we're improving it. But the point of it is that we are actually taking action. But anyways, moving on to the next piece of key resources and stakeholders that was identified. The key stakeholders here that were identified were to be involved in this were local coalitions and networks, childcare providers, of course, as I said, you're going to see that a lot, local school districts and governmental offices. What we identified, or what our members identified, were like representatives like State Senator Wilk, like Tom Lackey, Juan Carrillo, both assembly members, Mike Garcia, our district representative, etc. And so the resources that were identified within our policy advocacy or tactics were having meeting spaces to establish these coalition meetings, to establish these facilitations, or to host these community, forums, policy research and data. So this is where I might be getting a little bit ahead of myself, but part of our data projects, or part of our data, impact that we hope to make through our data committees would be to support any policy advocacy efforts. And on top of that is communication tools, commitments of funding, and media support.
I see your hand, Carla.
Yeah, I was just gonna add a little note there. The representatives, of course, we might see a change there depending on the election result.
Thank you, Carla. So yeah, that might even the politicians might change, but well, it's a wrong statement to say that, because districts also might change too.
Okay, wait.
With redistricting and all that. So anyways, just get out and vote. Look at what's on your ballot. Pay attention to that. That is something that is helpful if you want to really inform yourself on that.
I see Gloria has her hand raised. Gloria, you had a question?
Yes, a question. I wanted to know if there was even stakeholders having a policy, how to say, like a movement. Do you guys know of any stakeholders that's having that, like a policy movement, like where we can engage not only community parents, how can I word this? I don't even know if I'm gonna word it right, but I know I got registered to a kind of like a movement program that actually has hand in hand of child advocacy. And I was wondering, I don't think I've even asked Carla. I'm not even quite sure if I did or I don't remember. Was there something like that in place from a stakeholder, like a CCRC having a policy program movement? Or do you guys know if that's something we can start?
I know CCRC works, they have representatives in ECE Voices. Myself and Tavier are now lead advocates within ECE Voices. We know that we have CCPU representation for our family childcare programs. Word is Parent Voices is looking to start a chapter here in the LA area. So that's the one thing that, you know, if that's something that Best Start can kind of like jump in on and say, hey, Parent Voices, we're ready to join this coalition. That's where we really want to position Best Start to be ready to jump into, right? So in the policy committee, we have talked about who are those advocacy groups and or coalitions that either service our area, exist in our area, represent our area. There aren't as many representatives within the AV. So that's something that in this work that we're looking to do through the policy and advocacy reform, it's like making sure that we are positioned to say the AV is here, right? Like we are here, we are using our own voices to represent ourselves. So there are, Gloria, there are those groups. Join the policy committee to learn more. Eventually the goal is that the policy committee will be sharing more of this information. But in short, yes, there are those groups.
Awesome.
Thank you, Carla.
Great question, Gloria. Okay, David, that was great.
Right. Yeah, thank you for those questions and clarifications. Moving on to the next piece, which is in community engagement and education. This is the next tactic that we're describing. And the first tactic, it would be structured outreach efforts that promote childcare accessibility and visibility of resources in underserved areas. And of course, this talks about the focus, I guess, to take on our rural areas, right? And so as we saw, as some of us have seen before, if you've been in the data committee or you attended stakeholders convening, you've seen the childcare desert map that we have of the Antelope Valley. And in the Antelope Valley, the childcare deserts are exactly dark red, which is the worst that you can get, meaning 0 to 15% of childcare slots are available to the children who are populating the area. And so this speaks perhaps to that, in which we are actually moving on to those rural areas. We're giving them a focus. We're talking to the community leaders, the community organizations that are operating out there, to the parents who are residing out there, in those areas that don't exactly get as much support as maybe you guys have seen. 93534 zip code is the only zip code in the Antelope Valley that has a at least 33% rating for all childcare availability. Everywhere else does not. There's places in North LA County that actually have zero childcare slots for children, like zero, nothing. And so this speaks to that, in which our efforts, our initiative is to get every child the support that they deserve, which in this capacity is childcare. And so moving on to the next tactic is creating a promoters training program to prepare community members to share information related to childcare. And so this is something that maybe Sylvia, you can talk about a little bit, in which we're taking kind of that promotoras model, right? So in which we actually are taking that model and we're bringing it here to the Antelope Valley, to the Best Start, and we're actually going to be in training promoters to support our initiative here in community engagement, because that's a proven way, a proven model, I guess, that really is able to inject really valuable information, really valuable resources into the community, from the community as well. And so actually, Gloria, I think I see your hand up.
I'm sorry, I forgot to take it down, I
Oh, it's
guess.
okay.
Sorry, guys.
Don't worry, Gloria. I just wanted to take heed. But yeah, Sylvia, I see you came off mute.
Just real quick, yeah, that's one of our huge goals here with Best Start Antelope Valley is that we really want to make this about the trainings and the capacity building, that it's done for the community, by the community, and with the community. That's really our biggest goal, in the sense that it will make it'll help the community just become stronger and become a healthier community.
Thank you, Sylvia. And our next and final tactic that we've identified here, or that our members, our Best Start members have identified, was expanding our social media presence. This would be through developing content specifically with the AV in mind, and tied to connecting families to childcare and promoting workshops to childcare providers. And so in this case, it's really engaging our community by letting them know what's available to them. We have a bunch of workshops, we have a bunch of capacity building sessions in which our parents 0 to 5 are able to access. And, we have thousands of parents in the AV who are able to take these classes, so it's something that we actually want to promote. We want to make accessible. And through that one of the best ways to do that would be through social media presence. And so our members maybe have more ideas in mind as we continue to develop that strategy, or that tactic, I should say. But essentially, it's a very valid one because, as we know, social media is like one of the best ways to get through to people, right? So that is something that we have identified as a really important tactic as we continue to engage our community and get a wider net, cast a wider net. So
Okay.
moving on, this is going to be talking about our key resources and stakeholders. Our stakeholders that were identified were childcare providers, local government representatives, community organizations, parents, residents, promoters, or promotoras, and outreach specialists. So individuals here are going to be the key stakeholders. These are really, this seems like a grassroots effort here in which we have, our community residents talking to other community residents, and keep that in mind when you talk about this in our discussion, when you have your connections. How many families do you work with? How many families do you engage with? How many are you friends with? How many, are in your neighborhood even? This is something that's as local as it gets, right? So, consider all those parents that you see every day, maybe anybody that works with children that you see every day, as key stakeholders here to this community engagement piece, as well, of course, as any other. But our resources that were identified were identifying community spaces that are relevant. So ones that are accessible to the community, ones that open themselves up for this, for what it is that we're supposing here, our plans, marketing tools and capacity, promoter training materials, community incentives, and financial commitment from our organization and others, perhaps. So right there, I also wanted to take a pause if anybody needed a chance before I go into data. So I know we covered 2 last time, and I covered 2 this time, but we have just 1 more for this round.
This is it. Go ahead,
Okay.
David.
All right. So for data-driven analysis, this one is the one that I take the lead on. So something that I can add on to this one is that I'm actually extremely ecstatic about the future in this, because we've had plenty of members come in and actually express an interest, express ideas, express ways that they want to get involved. So I'm really happy to see this one. And the first tactic, or the main one, the main tactic that we're utilizing here for our goal 1 of the CCA would be to create a data project that focuses on childcare provider operations, challenges, and availability. And now this is really, really important, because this is something that isn't actually happening in the Antelope Valley. There's no data on this. There's no one that's going around, as far as we know, that's at least making their own data accessible. That really talks to those childcare providers that are operating out here. And just not just asking, "Hey, how are you doing? Okay, you're not doing good. Okay, great." We want to go more in depth. We want to know more about operations. We want to know more about educational milestones and how our childcare providers might be supporting that. We want to understand any sort of challenges that they're undergoing. Is there any sort of tax issues that they're facing? Is there sort of any legal or insurance challenges or barriers that they're encountering? Is there challenges in filling in slots? So these are things that we hope to look at with zip code by zip code here in the Antelope Valley. And that's the data project that the data committee will actually take the lead on. So within that space, we're going to be really focusing on that data project and finding the right questions to ask, looking at interviews that we can take on a sample basis, and how we can get our committee members, our regional members, a role in supporting that project as well. So that's going to be the main tactic that we've identified here. And then on top of that, a side note would be establishing collaborative space, building data capacity and engagement, and particularly ensuring bilingual support here. So we've had plenty of our Spanish-speaking parents that are involved that want to learn more about data, that want to remove the mystery about it, that want to be a little bit more hands-on. And so within our collaborative space here, which we identify as our data committee, we're going to be going through that and making sure that no one's left behind on that, and making sure that there's technical resources available, and making sure that there is time to workshop any sort of challenges as well that they may be encountering. And so on top of that, this all boils down to supporting those policy efforts that we mentioned with the policy advocacy piece. So to finish off with data-driven analysis, so identifying the key resources and stakeholders, of course, would be our residents, parents, childcare providers, any sort of bilingual support staff, and resources here that we would be utilizing that our members identified was data collection tools. So, for example, surveying, data mapping, the child care centers, whether they're home-based or center-based. Looking at groups or interview templates, making sure that our members are equipped with the ability to facilitate those discussions, those interviews, that feel comfortable with the survey collection piece, and meeting spaces, of course, technical assistance, and any sort of mobility that might be involved as well. And, maybe knocking on those doors or going in person to any sort of interviews with those childcare providers. But yeah, so then that's that right there. We can now move on and allow our facilitators to discuss this next piece, our next table talk.
Our table talk. So what we're going to do, because we are constrained on time, the same questions apply. And we really want your input on what David just shared concerning the policy. What can you do? What Carla shared as far as, what Carla shared as far as policy and data, and David shared as far as data. What can we do? What are your strengths? How can we enhance the work in those areas? So as I stop sharing, let's go. These questions are still in the chat box, but I'm going to give only like a few minutes to that. If you have some insight, input. Thank you, Gloria, because you did have some great questions. But if you have...
I'm sorry to interrupt real quick. But, as we were talking about how the challenge of not having the conversation and the time for conversation, is there a possibility that we can do with people that were here this evening? Could we send them the slides of all that information again?
Absolutely.
Send them these questions and kind of like, I don't mean to give homework assignments, but I'm just thinking when we run out of time, then we also are like
rushing.
We're inhibiting, we're challenging like to get better information. For those of you that are here, would that possibility be a better thing to do in the sense of getting the slides we did, and then getting the questions, and then maybe emailing us back? Like, what are your thoughts on some of that?
I see yes and love homework. And that I can digest it better. So what we'll do is make sure you get access to these slides. We will let you do that as your homework assignment. And if you're able, for those who are able to come on Thursday, you can share back. But even if you're not able to come on Thursday, you can at least write down your thoughts and get that back to us.
Can you please put your emails for sure? I know you've signed in, but just put your emails in the chat just to make sure that we get this info to you.
Yeah.
Can you put the sign in?
Yeah, I think it's better if they just sign in. It'll be easier
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. And everything else, our announcements are on the same slide. So you will know. The one announcement I did want to make is Miss Gloria. I wanted to share Miss Gloria is going to be doing our Growing Brain 0 to 5 training coming up in the month of November. So we're excited. She has been a trained trainer, right?
Yes, thank you, Dara. Thank you, guys. Yes, I really want to extend my thanks to all of you guys who enhance and giving the platform and ability to go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. Can everybody hear me? I'm sorry.
Oh
I don't
yeah,
know.
we can. We're just
Okay,
sending
okay,
you
okay.
mad love. I don't know if
Oh,
you can see all the emojis and all of that
yes,
thing.
I'm very excited. But I just wanted to share with Best Start that it has helped me boost up my strength and my core values of what I've always implemented in my life. And I had a chance that I care so much for the future of the children. And just with that being said, I'm heading on without force to do these workshops and giving a special thanks to those who work very nonstop after hours and making sure that the message and the material was delivered for me to take on this step. If it wasn't for all those people from Best Start, I wouldn't even imagine in my whole life to do something like this in this magnitude. I'm excited. I am preparing the best I could, and I'm with the thought of, hey, this is why sometimes these programs are involved, and you don't know how much I emphasize this type of um, achievement to other parents and enhance that. Like, hey, this could be you too. I didn't believe in this. I didn't have the strength to be involved and be part of. And I do see in my parents that I can see two potential Glorias, and which is an awesome thing. And this is all thanks to you guys, Best Start. And as much as sometimes you guys hear me and Carla, but she's been awesome. Not only all you guys, staff, Stephanie, Sylvia for making a lot of things happen, and giving me that voice. So, like what they said, having that platform and having the residents and parents and community have more the structure of this, there will be a good outcome. So I'm looking forward for this, and I'm excited. And thank you guys. Thank you so much.
We're so excited that what we deem to do is getting our partnership leading the work. You are a part of the community, you are a parent, and you are now taking an active lead in the work. So thank you, Ms. Gloria.
And I'd also like to share before you go on to the next one, Jarrell, is that we have several other Best Start amazing people who have submitted proposals for other types of workshops that are going to be coming down the line, including our own Jessica Ramirez here. But a lot of new workshops that are going to be so amazing and that are going to continue to build the capacity of our Antelope Valley community.
Awesome blossom. I'm loving this. I'm seeing the fruit of our labor coming to pass, which is so great. We also have a sustainability workshop that's going to be coming up, developing as a leader and leading a community initiative, because that's what Best Start is, a community initiative. So that's going to be taking place November the 18th at 10 a.m. to 12. So mark your calendars. Again, these slides will be located on the slide deck that we forward to you. So you will have access also to the flyers. Applying for a teacher assistant apprenticeship. The CCRC has a teacher assistant apprenticeship that is available. You'll be able to scan that QR code if you're interested in that. This is available, and I believe it's paid. Am I right, Carla?
Yes, I did want to share this because we have a couple of childcare providers on the line, and I know you guys are really good at connecting with prospective providers or assistants who are ready to work towards a teacher assistant permit. Upon completion of this teacher assistant apprenticeship program, they will be able to qualify for a teacher assistant permit. They will have classes paid for, college classes, paid for by CCRC or through their apprenticeship program. And they will be assigned to work either with a child care center or a participating Head Start, where they can do their apprenticeship hours. So they're basically getting paid to learn and it leads towards their teacher permit. So please make sure that you share it with anyone that you know who's interested in becoming a teacher.
Okay. All
Early
right.
childhood education.
All right. I think we are coming to the conclusion. Please follow us. We have our new email address. We are All for Kids, our Best Start Facebook page, as well as our Best Start AV Instagram page. That is so exciting. And don't forget, your voice matters, so vote. Make sure you get out there, tell your friends, your family, your neighbors, go vote. Your voice matters. And with that, ladies, gentlemen, thank you for your patience, for your contribution and your time. You could have been any place else tonight, but thank you for joining us tonight. And that will conclude our meeting. Thank you so much. Thank you, Gloria. Thank you, Jennifer and Day and Carlos, Jessica. Woohoo! We made it right. I mean, by the skin of our chinny chin chins, y'all. It is 7:29. We did it. Thank you for your contribution. Again, the slide will be sent to you. We do need your input. We want your feedback because the whole point is to better these meetings as far as our community partners. So your feedback is vital. We need it. Think about it. It gives you a little bit more time to think on these things. So with that, you all have a good evening, and we will see you in the soup. We'll see you soon. Good night.